My sister banned my disabled son from attending her wedding. Luckily God had a plan for her. My sister and I have always been incredibly close with one another. So when she announced her wedding plans, I was thrilled and happy to help with any preparations. After getting her a wedding photographer, cake, and DJ, we got into the conversation on who to invite. Her husband was sitting there with us as we had the conversation. She was concerned about children coming to the event. According to her, they will cause havoc and make our wedding look bad. When I specifically mentioned bringing my amputee son, she hesitated. My son Jake was born healthy but lost his leg at 6 in a tragic car accident that also took my wife's life. Though he has overcome so much, he still battles low confidence at times. When I broke the news to my son, he was heartbroken. He always spoke about how much he loved seeing my sister and was sad that he couldn't see such an important milestone in her life. I ended up asking my best friend if there was any way he could watch my son. Thankfully, he agreed. When I first showed up at the wedding, I noticed a toddler standing next to an adult who I had never met before. Weird, I thought, but it was probably just an exception. As time went on and everyone began to congregate for the ceremony, I noticed that there were at least a dozen children there. I was confused but I didn't want to make a scene, so I waited until my sister came over to me and I asked her what the deal was. She broke the news to me, and I was absolutely heartbroken. I don't know how I can look at her the same way again. She confessed that my son was excluded because he has an amputated leg. It would draw attention to him at the wedding, and the wedding is not about him. It's about me and my fiancée. Not only did I feel betrayed, but I was disappointed that my sister viewed my son in such a poor manner. I almost lost it. I could understand if he was going to be disruptive or something, but because of that? I didn't trust myself at that moment, so I just walked out and went home. When I got home, my son asked me why I was back so early, so I made up some excuse and then spent the rest of the day having fun with him because it was the only thing keeping me sane. When my sister said he couldn't come due to his amputated leg, I was shocked. I struggled to control my anger, simply walking out without a word. I arrived early back at my friend's place. He asked what was going on, so I pulled him into another room without my son and told him. His reaction was the same as mine. Once I was with Jake, I focused on making him laugh, the only thing soothing my rage. The next day, I messaged my sister, asking how she could exclude my son for something beyond his control. She broke down in tears, but stood by her decision, claiming he would draw attention. What she said made me sick to my stomach. Look at your son. I don't know how anyone could even raise that thing. Her ignorance towards what my son had been through blinded her sight of reasoning. For the time being, I ended up cutting off all contact from her. I was unwilling to expose my son to such cruelty. Eventually, I ended up disclosing the information to my son. To my surprise, he didn't even care. He revealed that this exclusion was the climax of years of cruel comments from my sister when she thought I couldn't hear. He would just tell me that he liked my sister in order to prevent any drama. Family. I was baffled by making such a smart decision, especially for only being 12 years old. My precious boy had experienced enough stigma. He didn't need it from his family. Anger and bitterness towards my sister festered inside me. Finally, I decided enough was enough. I realized that the rest of our family needed to know about my sister's cruel actions, not just to defend my son, but also to show them the person she truly was. It felt strange, conspiring against her like this, but my loyalty to my son came first. I began by talking to my parents about it. I could see the shock and disbelief in their eyes when they heard about the wedding incident and my sister's cold behavior. They had never imagined that their own daughter could be capable of such heartlessness. Soon, our cousins, aunts, uncles, and other relatives knew about it as well. The news spread like wildfire, and the reaction was unanimous. They all felt that my sister was wrong. The usual admiration and respect for her quickly turned into shock, then to disappointment, then to anger. Many of our relatives chose to distance themselves from her. Some confronted her about her actions, demanding answers, which she failed to provide convincingly. My parents, however, were the most ruthless. Being wealthy, they assisted in financially assisting my sister and me throughout adulthood. We both would receive a couple thousand a month from them. After they heard what I told them, they immediately stopped the automatic payments to her account and ended up taking her out of the will. She was cornered, and the weight of her actions came crashing down on her. She ended up calling me, crying, and apologizing for her insensitivity. She even wanted to apologize to Jake. But I was firm in my decision. Jake didn't need an apology from a person who viewed him as a lesser being. All he needed was love and acceptance, something that my sister had utterly failed to provide. A few years later, I found out from one of our family members that hadn't cut off my sister that she now had a kid. Based on the photo he showed me, her son had deformed arms that were barely protruding out of his torso. As bad as I feel for her poor kid, that is exactly what you call karma.